Board games have been lying to you your whole life. That innocent box in your closet? It's hiding scandals, failed inventors, and origins dark enough to make family game night feel a little different. I'm Mike with List 25, and today we're rolling the dice on 25 mind-boggling facts about your favorite board games. 25. The Settlers of Catan. Klaus Teuber invented one of the most successful board games since Risk, but he never got to hold a first edition copy. That's because all 5,000 of them sold out before he could even think of grabbing one for himself, which is both impressive and a little sad. The miss didn't seem to bother him much, though. Catan went on to reshape the entire board gaming industry, introducing millions of players to resource trading and negotiation for the first time. Before Catan came along, most people only knew games where you rolled dice and moved pieces around a track. Teuber gave them something deeper, and his creation spawned expansions and special editions that are still selling strongly today. Somewhere out there, a first edition Catan collects dust in someone's closet. The owner probably has no idea they're sitting on a piece of board game history that even the creator couldn't get his hands on. 24. Taikyoku Shogi. Chess players think they've mastered strategy. Then they hear about Taikyoku Shogi. Suddenly, chess looks like a warm-up exercise. This ancient Japanese board game uses a grid with 1,296 squares, and each player controls 402 pieces. For comparison, a standard chess set gives you just 16. In addition to that, the piece names sound like they came straight out of a fantasy novel, such as Drunk Elephant, Strutting Crow, Enchanted Badger, Playful Cockatoo, and my personal favorite, The Violent Wind. Every single one follows its own movement rules. Nobody plays Taikyoku Shogi anymore, and honestly, you can't blame them. Setting up the board takes about an hour, learning all the movements takes a semester, and finishing a single game might require a small vacation. This stopped being a game a long time ago, and instead became a monument to human stubbornness. 23. Equate. Scrabble rewards vocabulary, but Equate rewards math skills. Instead of spelling words, players build working equations on the board. Everyone draws tiles printed with numbers and mathematical symbols, then arranges them to score points. Complexity and placement determine the score, just like in Scrabble, but here's the catch. Every equation has to actually work. You can't just throw random numbers together and hope for the best. Teachers love Equate, and math enthusiasts swear by it. Everyone else feels their anxiety spike just looking at the box. Still, there's something satisfying about watching someone confidently lay down tiles and build mathematical elegance right there on the game board. Numbers can be just as competitive as letters, and twice as likely to spark arguments at the dinner table. 22. The Shining. Stephen King's The Shining traumatized an entire generation through books and film. So naturally, someone thought it would make a great family activity. The weird part is, they were actually right. Here's what makes this game wild. One player takes on the role of the Overlook Hotel itself, not a character inside it, but the actual haunted building. You control these supernatural forces, the creepy hallways, and everything sinister lurking within. Your job is to trap, terrify, and torment everyone who walks through your doors. Meanwhile, another player controls the Torrance family as they scramble from room to room, trying not to lose their minds before they can escape. It's two completely different experiences happening on the same board. The creepy atmosphere of the source material actually translates surprisingly well, but fair warning, this one gets intense. So you'd better save it for friends who won't hold grudges after you've psychologically tormented them for 2 hours. 21. Mousetrap. Did you know you're not supposed to build the Mousetrap contraption before you start playing? The instructions specifically tell you to assemble it piece by piece during the game itself. Land on the right space, slap a new piece onto the board. That's how it works. The crazy thing grows taller and weirder with every turn, and everyone at the table keeps eyeing it like, when does it actually do something? Then finally, someone hits the trigger space, and you all get to watch a metal ball bounce through the chaos you spent an hour constructing together. This design choice is genius when you think about it. Instead of spending 20 minutes building something before the fun starts, the construction becomes the fun. Kids stay engaged because something's always happening, and the trap's completion lines up perfectly with the game's climax. Whoever designed Mousetrap understood human psychology way better than they get credit for. 20. Backgammon. Byzantine Emperor Zeno had a rough day in the year 480. He sat down for a casual game of backgammon, shook the dice, and rolled so badly that somebody decided to write it down for posterity. That note survived, which means we're still talking about a dice roll from over 1,500 years ago. The roll was bad enough that the people watching thought future generations needed to know about it. You have to imagine being so unlucky that your friends immortalize your failure forever. Hey, remember when Emperor Zeno got absolutely humiliated by 2 small cubes? Let's make sure nobody ever forgets. Zeno ruled an empire. He had money, armies, and power most people can't even fathom, but none of that mattered when the dice hit the table wrong. Backgammon doesn't care who you are. You can command thousands of soldiers, but you can't command a lucky roll. Even the guy running half the known world had to sit there and accept that fate wasn't on his side that afternoon. 19. Twister. Twister nearly tanked before it even hit shelves. The Sears catalog rejected it for being too risque, worried that all the physical closeness between players would scandalize decent Americans. In fact, the creators were ready to give up entirely until Johnny Carson happened. The late-night host played Twister with actress Eva Gabor on The Tonight Show, and the footage was pure television gold. 2 glamorous people getting tangled up on a colorful mat, laughing and stumbling all over each other. America ate it up, and within 24 hours of that broadcast, sales instantly exploded into the millions. The whole situation is a masterclass in marketing luck. No focus groups, no expensive ad campaigns, just one spontaneous TV moment that captured exactly what made the game fun. Twister went from too inappropriate for Sears to in every American household because Carson decided to goof around on camera. Sometimes success isn't about strategy. It's about being in the right place at the right time with the right celebrity. 18. Jenga. Those Jenga blocks in your closet aren't all the same size, and those tiny differences are the whole reason the game works. Some blocks are slightly smaller or narrower than others, which affects how easily they slide out. The variations are subtle enough that you can't spot them just by looking. But when you're tapping blocks and testing which ones will slide out smoothly, you're actually searching for these manufacturing inconsistencies. Some blocks fit looser, some tighter. The ones that wiggle are the ones you want, and the ones that feel stuck should be left alone, unless you enjoy watching the tower collapse. This adds a layer of strategy most people never realize exists. Experienced Jenga players spend serious time testing before committing to a pull, and no, they're not being dramatic. They're planning their next move. The game rewards patience and observation as much as steady hands. So, next time you play, tap first, and your win rate will thank you. 17. Chutes and Ladders. That colorful kids game about climbing ladders and sliding down chutes started as a 2,000-year-old Hindu teaching tool about the soul's journey through reincarnation. And you're welcome for that information. The original game was called Mousetrap, and it was deeply spiritual. Ladders represented virtues that elevated your soul toward liberation from the cycle of rebirth. Snakes, which were later changed to chutes, represented vices that sent you back and prolonged your spiritual suffering. The whole board was basically a moral lesson disguised as entertainment. The remarkable thing is that the core rules have barely changed across 2 millennia. Roll, move, climb, or fall based on where you land. Ancient Indian children and modern American kindergartners are essentially playing the same game, just with different artwork and way less theology weight. Mousetrap wanted to prepare souls for the afterlife, while Chutes and Ladders just want to kill 20 minutes before nap time. Same mechanics, wildly different stakes. 16. The Driver's Way. In Sierra Leone, you cannot get a driver's license without first playing a board game. Prospective drivers must purchase a game called The Driver's Way and play through it at least once before they're allowed behind the wheel. The game teaches road safety and traffic laws through hands-on gameplay, with dice designed to look like stoplights and miniature classic cars that move around the board. Players answer questions about Sierra Leone's driving regulations at various checkpoints along the way. It's genuinely clever when you think about it. Instead of just reading a manual and memorizing rules, drivers interact with scenarios and reinforce their knowledge through play. The combination of education and entertainment helps important information actually stick, just like List 25, edutainment. Whether this approach produces better drivers than written tests remains to be seen, but you have to admire a country that looked at licensing requirements and thought, you know what this needs? Game night. 15. Pandemic Legacy. Board games are supposed to be replayable. That's the whole point. Pandemic Legacy throws that idea out the window. You play it once, and then it's done. Completely finished and destroyed. The game unfolds as a year-long campaign where each session represents 1 month in an evolving story. As you play, you permanently alter the components by adding stickers, tearing up cards, opening sealed packets, and destroying pieces based on your decisions. Win or lose, those changes stick, and the world on your board transforms into something completely unique to your group's experience. Your copy becomes both unplayable and irreplaceable after that final session. Nobody else will ever have the exact same game you do, and every choice carries real weight because you can't take it back. I've heard of people hanging their finished boards on walls like trophies, while others may need a minute alone with the box afterwards, just staring at it. You've built something together that can never exist again, and that hits different. 14. Cribbage. During World War II, Cribbage was the game of choice aboard American submarines. Something about the quick pace and strategic depth made it perfect for sailors stuck underwater for weeks at a time. Admiral Dick O'Kane, one of the Navy's most decorated submarine commanders, played constantly, and his personal cribbage board started a tradition that's now 75 years old. When O'Kane's service ended, his board didn't retire with him. Instead, it ceremonially passed to the oldest active submarine in the Pacific Fleet. Each vessel displays and uses the board during its service, then hands it off when a new oldest sub takes its place. It's a direct line of connection stretching from World War II all the way to today. Think about that for a second. Sailors right now are playing on the same board that saw action in the 40s, and it serves as a symbol of continuity and camaraderie that links generations together. Submarines and their weapons evolved dramatically over those decades, but a simple card game and a wooden board kept the connection alive. 13. The Game of Life. The modern Game of Life is all career cards, salary negotiations, and cheerful retirement. The original 1860 version was way darker, featuring self-unaliveness, poverty, and complete ruin as legitimate gameplay outcomes. Milton Bradley's first creation was called The Checkered Game of Life, which reflected Victorian-era values regarding moral choices. Players didn't just chase wealth. They navigated a path where bad decisions could lead to disgrace, destitution, or worse. The board included spaces representing virtues and vices, with consequences that actually felt like consequences. The transformation into today's sanitized version came out in the 60s, when the company decided optimism sold better than existential dread. Out went the moral parables and harsh outcomes, and in came plastic cars, pink and blue pegs, and a generally upbeat trajectory from college to retirement. The game went from cautionary tale to capitalist fantasy in one redesign, which is probably for the best. Nobody wants to explain Victorian concepts of ruin to their 8-year-old. 12. Train. Some board games are designed to be fun. The Train is designed to make you feel something far more complicated. Created by artist Brenda Romero, the game starts innocently enough. Players load small yellow figurines into boxcars and race their trains along a track, and the mechanics feel light and competitive. Fill the cars, move them forward, and reach the destination first. You're playing to win, and everyone's laughing and strategizing together. Then, someone reaches the end and flips over the destination card. It reads, Auschwitz. The whole experience transforms in that moment. Every decision you made shifts into something devastating. Train isn't entertainment. It's experiential art that forces players to confront how ordinary actions can enable extraordinary horror. Some people cry, some go quiet, and almost everyone walks away thinking completely differently about complicity and systems. 11. Expensive Monopoly. Ready to feel poor? There's a Monopoly set valued at around $2 million, and it makes your dog-eared family copy look like absolute trash. The board and components are crafted from 23-karat gold, and the houses and hotels feature rubies and sapphires set into their chimneys. Even the dice and tokens are made from precious materials, transforming a mass-market game into something that belongs in a vault. Obviously, nobody actually plays this version. You don't roll solid gold dice and risk scratching a jewel-encrusted hotel. The whole thing exists only as a celebration of Monopoly's cultural impact and a showpiece for collectors who think extravagant is an understatement. For the rest of us, the irony isn't lost. A game about accumulating wealth turned into an object only the obscenely wealthy could ever own, which is either perfect or deeply depressing, depending on your perspective. 10. Diplomacy. John F. Kennedy and Henry Kissinger both love the same board game, and that tells you everything you need to know about their personalities. Diplomacy is a strategy game set in pre-World War I Europe where players control major powers, and victory depends entirely on negotiation, alliance building, and knowing exactly when to stab your friends in the back. There is no dice or luck involved, just pure human interaction. You convince others to support you, coordinate attacks together, and inevitably betray your partners when the timing is right. The game rewards manipulation and punishes trust, which explains why two of America's most calculating political minds found it irresistible. Friendships have ended over diplomacy games, and family gatherings have been ruined. The experience reveals character in uncomfortable ways, because watching how someone plays tells you whether they're loyal, scheming, or capable of lying to your face while planning your destruction. Kennedy and Kissinger understood geopolitics through this lens. Everything is a matter of negotiation, and everyone is a potential ally or enemy, depending on the circumstances. 9. Anti-Monopoly. Regular Monopoly rewards you for crushing your opponents and hoarding everything. Anti-Monopoly flips that completely, because you're not trying to build an empire here. You're trying to tear one down. When you open the box, the board already looks like someone finished a brutal game of regular Monopoly and left everything behind. All the properties have owners, rent has skyrocketed, and one player essentially controls everything, while everyone else scrambles to survive. That's the starting point. Half the players are monopolists fighting to keep prices high and squeeze every dollar out of the little guy, while the other half are competitors trying to bust up that stranglehold and bring back balance. The whole thing was designed as a direct shot at its famous cousin. Anti-Monopoly is weirdly educational if you pay attention, and it's also a great way to start arguments about economics at Thanksgiving. 8. Chug-A-Lug. The late 60s were wild, and board games reflected that energy in ways that would never fly today. In 1969, a commercially sold adult game called Chug-A-Lug hit shelves, and it was built entirely around drinking, smoking, and marijuana use. Players competed to collect alcoholic unanimous cards by completing various drinking challenges. Penalties could require making a liquor store run, removing clothing, smoking, or being banned from using the bathroom. The whole thing leaned hard into counterculture vibes and pushed boundaries that mainstream games wouldn't touch for decades. Walking into a store in 1969 and buying this off the shelf was totally normal. No age verification, no disclaimers, just a party game openly encouraging substances and strict penalties right there in the toy aisle. The game captures a moment in American culture when rebellion was marketable and nothing seemed too outrageous. Good luck finding a copy today, because they're a collector's item now. Relics of an era when board games got genuinely unhinged. 7. Pank-a-Squith. Diplomacy isn't the only game on this list that's political, because this next one takes it to a whole new level. British suffragettes created a game called Pank-a-Squith to spread their message about women's voting rights, and the name alone is incredible. It's a mashup of Emmeline Pankhurst, the legendary suffragette leader, and Prime Minister H.H. Asquith, who opposed women's suffrage. The spiral board challenged players to guide their suffragette figure from home to Parliament while dodging obstacles thrown up by Asquith and his Liberal government. Reaching the center meant achieving universal suffrage, which was the movement's ultimate goal. The game utilized suffragette colors of green, white, and purple, transforming activism into family entertainment by spreading the cause into living rooms across Britain. Suffragettes understand how to meet people where they are. They didn't just march and protest. They made board games, produced merchandise, and turned their movement into something you can engage with at your kitchen table. 6. Campaign for North Africa. If you thought Taikyoku Shogi was complicated, meet the board game equivalent of running an actual war. Campaign for North Africa, the Desert War 1940 to 1943, takes over 1,200 hours to finish, which works out to about 50 days of non-stop playing. Or several months if you're someone with a job and basic human needs, like sleep. These designers weren't messing around. They went full obsessive on World War II's North African theater. The rulebook reflects that. You're tracking tank fuel consumption, monitoring where individual soldiers are positioned, and doing all of this on a map that takes over your entire dining room table. It is bonkers. Oh, and you'll also need about 10 friends who don't mind kissing their social lives goodbye for a year. Does anyone ever actually finish the thing? Almost never. It exists more as a flex than an actual game, something hardcore history buffs can point to and say, I own that, without ever opening the box. For the rest of us, Campaign for North Africa is just proof that some people will really take historical accuracy way too far. 5. Dungeons and Dragons. The guy who invented D&D didn't celebrate Christmas. Let that sink in for a second. Gary Gygax built a game where you can cast spells, summon demons, and fight mythological monsters, but he skipped Christmas because he thought it was too pagan. Gygax was a devout Christian his whole life, and he took his faith seriously enough that the holiday's historical connections to pre-Christian traditions bothered him. So he just didn't participate. No tree, no presents, no eggnog. Meanwhile, parents across America were burning his game in their backyards because they thought it promoted witchcraft. The whole situation is beautifully absurd when you think about it. Religious groups spent decades attacking D&D as satanic, but the man who created it was over here reading his Bible and refusing to hang stockings. Gygax saw a clear line between make-believe at the gaming table and how he actually lived his life. Dragons and wizards were just storytelling, while his faith was real. Most people couldn't wrap their heads around that separation, but Gygax never seemed bothered by the contradiction. 4. Yahtzee. Yahtzee was invented by an anonymous Canadian couple who called it the yacht game because they played it on their yacht. The hobbies of the wealthy apparently lead to mass market success. In 1956, entrepreneur Edwin S. Lowe acquired the rights, but here's the wild part. He didn't pay cash. Instead, Lowe traded the rights for 1,000 gift sets of the game itself. The couple essentially exchanged their creation for 1,000 boxes of their own invention, which Lowe promptly renamed Yahtzee and turned into a bestseller. Think about that negotiation for a second. I'll give you 1,000 copies of the thing you invented. And they said yes. Either they truly loved their game and wanted to share it with everyone they knew, or they had no idea what they had. Lowe made millions from the deal. The Canadian couple received numerous gifts to hand out at parties. History didn't record how they felt watching Yahtzee become a household name while they explained to friends why they had so many boxes in their garage. 3. Chinese checkers. Chinese checkers isn't Chinese. It was invented in Germany in 1892, originally called Sternhalma, and has zero historical connection to China whatsoever. The game started as a spin on Halma, which Americans came up with first. German designers grabbed that idea, threw in the star-shaped board everyone recognizes today, and called it a day. The game eventually made its way to China through Japan, and that's where it became popular in East Asia. Somewhere along the line, Western marketers figured Chinese checkers would move more units than Stern Halma, so they slapped a new name on it and hoped nobody would ask questions. And nobody did, apparently. For over 100 years, people have assumed this game has ancient Chinese roots or some deep cultural significance. Nope. It's German engineering with a fake exotic label designed to boost sales. The gameplay has nothing to do with Chinese traditions or history either. So yeah, if your uncle gets smug about his Chinese checkers winning streak in the next family gathering, you now have the intel to knock him down a peg. 2. Battleship. Long before plastic pegboards and "you sunk my battleship" commercials became a thing, the game existed as nothing more than paper and pencil. Players would draw grids, secretly place their ships, and call out coordinates to find and sink each other's fleets without any fancy equipment. The origins trace back to the early 1900s, with historical accounts suggesting Russian military officers played a version of it before World War I. They used it to practice spatial reasoning and strategic thinking, making it actual military training disguised as downtime entertainment. The game eventually spread through word of mouth, with different variations popping up wherever people had paper and time to waste. The plastic version with the satisfying peg clicks didn't arrive until 1967, transforming a simple concept into a commercial product. But for decades before that, millions of people played Battleship with nothing more than a pencil and their imagination. 1. Mehen. Ancient Egyptians had a board game called Mehen, named after a coiled serpent god. The board looks like a snake curled in on itself, and archaeologists have dug up little marble balls and lion-shaped pieces that went with it. They've found these sets in tombs buried right alongside the dead, which tells you people took this game seriously, because you simply don't get buried with your Monopoly set unless it means something to you. The catch? Nobody wrote down the rules. We've got the boards, we've got the pieces, but zero instructions survived. Researchers have theories based on what the components look like and how similar ancient games worked, but it's all guesswork. Nobody can say for certain how Mehen actually played. Thousands of years ago, people gathered around these boards, trash-talked each other, celebrated wins, and groaned at bad luck. Now we just stare at the pieces in museums trying to figure out what they were doing. It's kind of beautiful and frustrating at the same time. Who knew Family Game Night had so much baggage? Egyptian mysteries, Victorian self-unaliving squares, I still can't say the word, YouTube won't let me, and someone out there owns a Monopoly set worth more than my house. Unreal. Did you have any of these? Probably the $2 million Monopoly, I know you. What's your favorite board game of all time? Currently, Disney Villainous, amazing. Try it out. There's Disney Villainous, Marvel Villainous, and Star Wars Villainous. But if you want more tabletop surprises, click here for 25 surprising facts about board games you didn't know. And that's it for today. As always, thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss on any new content, and I'll catch you in the next one.